John knows, and some of you know out there, my dad passed away from cancer about 7 years ago from smoking cigarettes. Basically, what I want to do right now is just share a positive story and a positive message about quitting smoking cigarettes, some tips on how you might stop smoking cigarettes, and the quality of life, that you can have after smoking cigarettes. So just to open it up a little bit, I've known John for, I believe, over 4.5 years now. And John used to smoke some time ago, quit, and ultimately he started running marathons. So that's the shortened version, but I'll let John go ahead and introduce himself.
All righty. Thanks, Travis. Man, thanks for reaching out for us to do this and talk. Technology is amazing. You're in Colorado and I'm in Champaign, Illinois. And again, it's just kind of fun to talk and share. So, I grew up here in Champaign, and like any high school kid back in the 70s, we always used to think smoking cigarettes was cool. So sometime right there in high school, I started smoking cigarettes, and it was like, I don't know, I was like 16 or 17 in there. And I remember, this is like the good and bad of how it was accepted back in the 70s. Because I remember coming home from school one day and my mom goes, "John, it's like, you smell like cigarettes." And it's like, why would you smell like cigarettes? It's like, well, because I just had a cigarette walking home. And my mom goes, "Well, that's too bad, but it's like, I don't want you to hide it from me. So if you're going to smoke, then I just want to know that you're going to smoke." And, I don't remember if I smoked in the house, but, I probably did a little bit. But society was so accepting of cigarettes, at that time and before. I mean, I remember when I was 17, I flew on an airplane. We sat in the back of airplanes and smoked cigarettes and stuff. So it was, at that time it was, and I'm sure we knew there were health risks, Travis, but it's like at that time it was accepted.
Definitely. And yeah, I think, not that I was, there back then too, but just from what I've seen in movies at that time, it seems kind of like people of higher status and stuff did it too, like athletes for the marketing for all of that, and people of importance, I guess. So is that something that's true?
Yeah, I know they did back then. Like that was kind of before my time, but I think when you go back to like some of the baseball stars in the 20s and 30s, they did, TV commercials and stuff for smoking. And it was considered, I don't know if it was glamorous or what, which is like crazy now looking back, because fact is a cigarette smells really bad, but it was, it was the social thing to do for a lot of years. The guys in World War II were given cigarettes because they were so bored and they were overseas and different things. So there were a lot of society issues that supported, it's okay to have a cigarette. So, which is crazy now with what we know about them.
Right. Definitely. So a few questions, you kind of already hit them, but what age do you think you were then? You said in high school that you first had one.
Yeah, I wanted, I was trying to figure that out earlier. I think about age 17, and I remember I went to Champaign Centennial High School, and this is even crazy too. They'd let us smoke on the school ground. So it's like we go in between classes and I'd light one up, which is, again, even crazier when you look at high school or university campuses now where they're all like tobacco free for everything. And I remember going outside and going from class to class and lighting one up then. So it's crazy, but right about age 17 is what I think.
Okay. And I didn't have this one down actually, but it made me think of it because I first tried mine actually. I was quite a bit younger, but my dad did. So did you have any like immediate relatives that smoked also?
So my father smoked during World War II when he was stationed in Nettishall, England. And then he smoked some when he came back, and but he quit before I was born, or right in there. I never saw my father with a cigarette. A little cool trivia is I have his brass lighter from World War II, and
nice.
It's a flameless lighter, and so that's a treasure. And then my mom, to be cool back in that day, actually smoked in the late 40s. Early 50s. So I have her cigarette case with her initials on it. So two of my treasures from that, but I never saw either of them smoke, and they were fortunately they'd stopped before I was born, or I don't remember them ever smoking.
That's awesome. Well, I didn't expect that actually. That's a few success stories and a few generations of actually stopping or being able to quit smoking. So that's an awesome thing.
Yep.
Okay, so the other one I have, how long did you smoke cigarettes for?
So I always tell people I smoked for 20 years, and I figured out today it's closer to 22 years, because I know I stopped smoking in 97 because I know what was going on with my life at that time. So, plus or minus a few months, but as I was thinking today, because I knew you and I were going to have this conversation, it'd be 97 when I quit. So I smoked about 22 years. I don't remember how much I smoked early, but I know later in life and through college, it was a pack and a half a day. Again, I don't know why they let us smoke in our dorm. I went to school at Eastern Illinois University. I know I smoked in my dorm room, lived in the Pike fraternity house. I'd roll out of bed and light up a cigarette. But maybe a few adult beverages there in college, but it was a pack and a half a day in college. And after college, again, it was socially the cool thing to do. You could smoke in bars. You just did it. And it was inexpensive. It wasn't anywhere close to how much it is now that people pay for a pack or a carton. But pretty much I'm thinking most of my career at a pack and a half a day. So that's 30 cigarettes a day. And, it was just something I did.
Definitely. So kind of transitioning from that then to why you were smoking cigarettes. What made you want to smoke or quit smoking cigarettes and try to quit that habit?
So I had opened up an indoor sports facility in 96, and I reconnected with an old high school friend, and we'd rented out part of the space in that indoor sports facility to him, and he was doing some training and some circuit training, a little cardio, lifting. And so it's like, I started doing that. And then that business shut down. And that's another story we can talk about, a business failure early in my life, which, the failures in life is what makes you stronger later, but we'll save that for another podcast. But, I'd work out with him and I'd do this circuit training with, again, the cardio and the lifting. And then it's like, I'd walk out and I'd light up a cigarette, after working out. And again, I'm thinking this was about 97. And I'm just like, one day it's like, okay, that's pretty stupid. You're working out, you're kind of doing the right thing. You're walking on the treadmill, doing some cardio, doing some lifting. So I remember I pulled over and saw a garbage can and I threw my cigarettes away. I think they were like Winston Lights at the time. And I mean, everybody's quit something several times. You have to have that final time, whether it's drugs or alcohol or chocolate or whatever. But I threw them in the garbage can and I just never went back. And then I just continued. I was on the board of a drug house rehab place here in Champaign-Urbana, and all the research that I read with that is it had a lot of success, and their model was replace the drug addiction with a little bit of Jesus. But it made me realize if you're giving up something, you have to replace it with something else. So that's when I continued to just go on the treadmill and walk on the treadmill.
Awesome. Well, yeah. So as part of that too, you kind of answered that question, but did you have any times where you fell back or started again? And if not, did you have any times or recall any times where it may have been difficult for you, like you felt cravings or anything like that?
Yeah, no. It was like in retrospect, Travis, I was motivated. I was ready. It was time. I didn't like the smell of it. I didn't like to do it. I'm 5'11", but I weighed 150 pounds back then. And I was kind of ready to make the change. So I think, and again, I'm not an expert on addiction and getting rid of it, but I think I was just mentally and physically, okay, it's time. I don't think it was a health issue as much as like, it's time. It's just, I don't know. I wish I would have journaled at that time and figured out what was my real motivation for that. Pardon me. But I think it was, I enjoyed doing the treadmill. I enjoyed doing something different. And, you can't, smoked cigarettes your whole life. So something resonated with me then, and I wish I would have journaled, and at the time I should have, and then we'd have some really good stuff, even better stuff to talk about on what really drove me to do it. But I think it was, hey man, walk on the treadmill, it's better than smoking a cigarette. But I'm not sure. I think I was just probably ready.
For sure. And I think that's probably more important too, because like for my dad or people who do smoke, a lot of the time I feel like it's outside influence or someone telling them, hey, you should quit smoking or doing that. But for your story, it kind of sounds like it was more of an internal thing with you, and you just decided that, you needed to stop doing that.
But to your point, Travis, is, you can have people that love you and say, hey, you need to do this, or you need to lose 25 pounds, and you need to stop drinking a 12-pack of Diet Pop a day, and you need to do this. Everybody that loves you can tell you that, but again, to your point, you got to want to do it. I mean, if you wanted to train for a marathon, I mean, you can go train for a marathon. But if Chelsea tells you to go train for the marathon, I mean, she'd encourage you, but that has nothing to do with it,
Chelsea tells me to train for a marathon. Since she's watching this, I'm probably going to train for the marathon. But no, I'm kidding. It's one of those things too. Sometimes me and her are the same way. When you like tell somebody to do something, they're more turned off and not inclined to do whatever you're telling them to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Another off the wall. So what's one thing that you might have wished you'd known about cigarettes, or when you had started smoking back then, before you actually started smoking?
It was starting to come out, during that time period that they were bad. And the irony is my favorite neighbor on John Street in Champaign, her name was Joe Lindsay. And the American Cancer Society had a campaign back then. It was called Smoking is Very Glamorous. And they took these pictures. It was like early shock media stuff. It was this picture of this old lady who didn't look good, and she had a cigarette in her mouth. And I remember, and my mother and I talked about it later, it's like, I despised people who smoked as a kid. And I would give these to my neighbor, Joe, just because I loved her. I mean, she, different people had those great moms in the neighborhood that you loved, and she smoked cigarettes, and I know it really bothered her. So I wasn't trying to be a mean kid, but I would give her these pictures of the American Cancer Society propaganda saying smoking is very glamorous. And then, through grade school, my brother, who's 7 years older than I am, he smoked, and I didn't like it. I remember one day he was giving me a ride somewhere, and I broke his cigarettes in half, and he got so mad at me. And then he and I talked about that in recent years too. It's like, dude, you hated smoking and then you smoked. But, I think somehow it had to resonate with me. Cigarettes, unhealthy, walking on treadmill, healthy. And so I just kind of went for the trade-off.
Definitely. And last question, and before we transition from, quitting smoking cigarettes to living a more healthier lifestyle, from your experience or from what you know now after all of that, if anyone out there right now is trying to quit smoking cigarettes, what advice might you have for someone trying to quit cigarettes?
Again, it's all in the heart, and you have to, in my opinion, replace it with something else. Is that volunteering? Is it reading a book? Is it the treadmill? Is it 150 push-ups a day? You got to do something else, because you're going to have that energy. And I know a lot of people said, well, it's like, I really like that first one in the morning, or I like that one with my coffee, or I love that cigarette with the beer, or, sitting out back of the deck at 9:30 when the wife and the kids are in bed. So I think it's just that mental thing. You have to mentally say, all right, I'm stronger than this. And there's some research out there talking about how addictive cigarettes are, because they're easy to get and they're affordable and they're your friend. They're always there. You have a bad day, you can have your cigarette. So you just have to be mentally ready to say, okay, I'm going to make the change. I don't need these anymore. So you have the health factor, and then more than ever, the cost factor. I don't know if they're $8 or $9 a pack in Illinois now. I don't know what they are in Colorado with the taxes, but it's like, I don't know about you, but it's like, $9 and still, buy you lunch with your buddies, or breakfast at the diner. So, it's a lot of money when you look at one or two people in the household that both might be smoking, a pack and a half or 2 packs a day. So it's money and health.
Definitely agree. To transition from that, Dan, about your drive to want to quit smoking and living a healthier lifestyle, what kind of made you wanted to go to the extreme, and when did you actually start running marathons or think, hey, I might want to start running some marathons after this?
So I'll get to the marathon and the running thing in a second. Again, I alluded to earlier through high school and college. In my smoking career, I was 5'11" and weighed 150 pounds. And, some people are like, hey, man, you're lucky you're skinny. But as a guy, it's just like, not everybody wants to be the skinny dude all their life. At some point in time, you're like, yeah, I'd like to, have a little definition in the arms or something. And so I intentionally, with my friend Dave, who had the workout place, it's like we started doing a program, and I started, eating healthier and lifting and doing some things and some cardio, but, focused on, can I take my body in a good way from 150 to 175 or 180 pounds. So I did that. And so that was a lot of fun to see. And it wasn't like I just ate chocolate and ice cream to do it. I mean, I lifted, did some protein powders, and, I think, for a couple months I did some creatine just to work out. But it was just like, okay, eat healthier, do the protein shakes, lift a little bit. And then during this time, it's like I realized I liked to walk. And so the other gym, after my buddy's gym closed, it's like, if you watch half of a football game or a basketball game, you can get, 4 or 5 miles in on the treadmill. So I just started incorporating the walking. If I'm going to watch a football game, you want to lay on the couch or do you want to walk on a treadmill? So it was like pretty easy for me. It's like, I can walk while I watch a ball game, and it's like a win-win deal. I want to watch my team, but I can get the cardio, and I started walking on the treadmill. So that's how I started continuing to do the little bit of cardio on the treadmill before I started running. So let me tell you how I started running then.
Yeah. I'm interested to hear that. A lot of the stuff is actually interesting. So I've known you for a while, but I've never heard answer to these questions or known, the depth really of your story with smoking or running. So I'm interested to learn about all that too.
Yeah. So I will tell you that my running career as a young man was 1 year on the cross country team at Jefferson Middle School. And my friend Mike and I were like these two little skinny dudes, and I hated to run, but I ran cross country for 1 year, and I'm sure I was horrible and I didn't like it. And that was in 7th grade at Jefferson Middle School. And the only reason I did that because my baseball coach goes, well, if you want to play sports in middle school, you need to go out for a sport right away. So even though I sucked at it, I ran in 7th grade. But when it would have been, 13 years ago now, my 2 oldest boys, it was about September, and they had a really great event here in town called the Illinois Marathon. And my 2 oldest boys, Jason and Colin, said, hey, Dad, why don't you run a half marathon with us in April? And they knew I went to the gym and walked, but I hadn't started running. And they're like, hey, Dad, why don't you run the Illinois half marathon with us? And I'm like, I don't think I thought about it very long, Travis. And I'm like, again, I'm not the smartest guy, but I can look at the calendar. It's like, that's 6 months. And, with the internet and books and everything, there's so much information out there on, how to do this and how to train. And so I just started in October. And so that gave me my 6 months to train. And, again, a lot of it was on the treadmill, live out in the country. I do stuff, but I did all my training by myself. It wasn't that I was against joining a running club or doing anything. It was a real personal thing. It still is. It's personal, it's private, it's spiritual. But I did all my training, and then have 3 sons. The younger son now, we do some biking and some running stuff. He's just, he's very athletic. He's just not as crazy as his 2 brothers and I am. But so I just kept training, and I did everything. So I'll never forget that day. The boys came over, and they're like, they were just stoked. It's like, okay, because they'd never done one either. I mean, they're, like I said, all the boys are really good athletes. And they came over that morning to the house, and they're like, all right, Dad, it's like our cousin Eric's in Iraq, so we're going to carry the flag for the whole marathon. And I'm like, no, man, I am focused. This is my plan. It's me. It's 13.1 miles. We're running together. That's great. It's like, we're not carrying the flag. So they're like getting a broom pole and broomstick and the flag, and they're running in the backyard. It's like 5:30 in the morning. It's like, no, Dad, we're going to carry the flag for the marathon. And like, we'll talk about more about the flag, how that's, but anyway, so we go over there to run. There's like, I can't remember, Travis, 12 or 14,000 people, because the half marathon and the marathon, you know, it's staged, everybody's in corrals, but basically we all run together. So first of all, I'm like, oh crap. It's like, I've trained by myself and all these thousands of people are here. And it's just like very uncomfortable start for me mentally, but it's like, it's okay. It's okay. You're here. You're with the boys. You know, you've trained for this. A lot of the training programs are like, well, you know, you get a 10-mile run in and that gets you ready for 13. So anyway, we do the run and it's just, you know, it's in Champaign-Urbana. It's just awesome. But I told the boys, it's like, I'm just going to run. I can't carry a flag, you know, which in retrospect was stupid. So basically I carry a flag now every time I do a half marathon or under in Champaign, and I'm like the flag guy, but that's another story. But I'll never forget, we're coming into the University of Illinois here, and Memorial Stadium is our football stadium, and the finish line is the 50-yard line of the Memorial Stadium. And as we come into the stadium, the boys are like, all right, Dad, you can take the flag. And then when we come across the finish line, we're all had a hold of the flag. But when we entered Memorial Stadium, and there's thousands of people there to greet, you know, their loved ones, the public address, you know, the PA announcer goes, the flag has entered the stadium. And it's like, Travis, I thought I was like in Greece at the Olympics. It was the coolest, highest feeling ever. And then we have this fabulous picture that's a real treasure of, we're all coming through the finish line and we all have our hands on the flag. And it was like, oh my gosh, I'd never done a 5K, I'd never done a 10K. And I just did a half marathon in my hometown with a couple of my sons. And it was like the highest high ever.
Probably ready to sit down at that point, but once he came over on that announcement, I bet you just sprinted that last 50 yards.
Oh, the adrenaline was unlike anything else. And, you know, I talk to people now about and the endorphins are high, and it's just it's just off the charts. So what's really funny, after that race, we went to a place here in town, Billy Baroo's, and they had the high top tables. And I remember I couldn't get up in that chair. My legs were dead. I just thought I did the hardest thing in the world to do a half marathon. And I'll never forget how tired I was. It's like, oh my gosh, physically the hardest thing I'd ever done in my life. And it was just, compared to what I do now, it's a really nice laugh when I look back. But I'm so blessed that A, my boys challenged me, and B, I'm so excited that they challenged me with something big. And you and I talked about goals and setting, you know, wild, crazy goals, but I'm so thankful they challenged me to do that. And now I give props to anybody who does a 5K, 10K, walks a 5K, walks a 10K. You know, everybody has a story behind them, whether they're cancer survivors or they lost a lot of weight. So, and that's what I love about the running community. Everybody always supports everybody. But for me, in retrospect, the fact that I did the half marathon out of the bag has helped me then to readjust my goals on some other things later. But yeah, running's pretty important to me now.
That's awesome, and an awesome story. And to your point, the farthest I've ever ran is a 10K. I usually try to train other things, but I went for time a little bit. But to think of a half being like, you know, the first major run and preparing for that, that's a pretty awesome story and something I want to work to, you know, at some point in my life too.
I'll coach you, man. I'll mentor you. No charge. I'll be a virtual coach.
So then anyway,
I fell in love with running then. I mean, it became part of me. I had some buddies that we used to play softball and volleyball, and we kind of started running. So then I started getting into the trail runs, and there's some really cool places here in Central Illinois. Be a little bit crazier in Colorado with the elevation, but I started doing, you know, 6 and 8, 7-mile trail runs. And I really love those. I still love those to these days. But after 7 years of the half marathons, I'm like, all right, time to step it up. So then I started running, the full marathons. I think my sweet spot's the 50K, which is 31 point something miles. And I love those on the trails. I'm not fast by any means. And people say, well, how long does it take to run 31 miles? It's like, well, it takes a long time. And sometimes I'll go with my buddies and they'll be done and they'll have 3 beers done and I'll still be out, running on the trail and stuff. But again, there was a high from the half marathon, then the full marathon, and then the ultras. So an ultra by definition is anything more than a full marathon. So I need to figure out next year. The most I've ever ran was 46 miles. That was on a St. Jude relay fundraising run. Champaign, Illinois to Peoria, Illinois is like 103 miles. So of that, in a 23-hour period, I ran 46 miles. So it wasn't continuous. It'd be like run an hour, take 45 minutes off, run. But that's my best. But I need to, I still have the God-given ability. I need to get an official 50-miler under my belt. But everything got canceled with COVID and those kind of things. But, I feel really blessed that I have the ability to go out and run 20 or 30 or 40 miles. So I try to do some different things if I can utilize that ability to raise funds, like for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. I've done that 9 straight years. I lost a brother to leukemia when I was 10. So I think when people have talents and abilities, then you got to give it back. I need to help train people like you or raise money for sick kids and everything. But yeah, and that's why I laugh, because it's like that first half marathon. It's like I was so tired. It's like, oh my gosh, it's so hard. And I've done training things now where it's like I'll run 20 miles and go home and shower and do some things around the house and go out and have dinner with my wife. So again, just at my age, full disclosure, I'm 63 years old. It's like I just feel so lucky that I can go out and do those things. And it's fun. Like I said, it's people that don't run or don't exercise. I know you do some training and running and stuff, but the endorphins, the high from the physical activity is for real. And then when you feel good physically, then that helps you mentally with life and work and relationships and everything. So
definitely, yeah, it's a huge self-confidence builder. But I would have never asked your age. I would have never guessed what your age actually is. But it just shows, living the healthier lifestyle and quitting cigarettes, kind of where you're at now. Before I jump to my other question.
Can I add something there, though? So I had a friend years ago in my Rotary Club, and this is what resonated with me. And I tracked him down a couple of years ago to thank him for this. But his point was the lifestyle choices you make now, especially like physically, affect your quality of life 10 years from now. So I think I'm getting some dividends of doing some things right 10 years ago, then hopefully I'll get some dividends 10 years after this. And the research is out there. It's like genetics is important. My father made it to 96. My mom made it to 95. But there's some research out there saying lifestyle is more important than genetics. You can't drink a 12-pack of diet pop every day.
Exactly.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, you're good too. I'll side stumble from that too and just say, I don't know, a lot of times you see people post on social media, or us talk about this now, but for anybody watching, you started, like you said, walking on the treadmill, watching sports games. You didn't just out of nowhere start running marathons. It was a timely thing, a lot of training, a lot of hard work. And the same for me, you talked about being a skinny guy. I used to have an issue being skinny or feeling skinny, and I still kind of feel the same way. But to my point now, like I've lifted for over like 10 years now, so for me, for myself feeling good, it's just a kind of like a lifestyle change. And it's not, don't be intimidated by, I don't know, someone looking physically fit or being able to run marathons, because you've got to start somewhere. Exactly.
Have you read Goggins, Can't Hurt Me?
That's one of my favorite books. Yep.
So, and we could do another episode on that. David Goggins, Can't Hurt Me. I love the audiobook. That book changed my life for my workouts, for my running, and for my professional life. It's like the best book ever. And it's powerful. To your point, it's like you can make those changes one day at a time.
Oh, one I wanted to throw in, if you had to estimate, I don't know if this was something you logged before, how many marathons do you think you've ran since you've started?
I don't even count them. I used to do 2 or 3 a year. And that's no disrespect to the people who count them. There's some people that have said, you know, I ran 50 half marathons, and it's like, I'm super proud of them, and I don't want to diminish that, but, and I've got a whole box of the finisher medals and everything you get. And, you know, this is one of my favorites right here. It says, Farmdale Trail Run 2017, 30-mile finisher. I mean, I was out for over 8 hours to get this, you know, but so, I mean, I like the stuff, but you know, to me, it's not about the number. It's just incorporating that into my healthy lifestyle. And again, for some people, they want to track all that. And so God bless them. I mean, I've got my Garmin, I track all my miles. And I should have tracked, you know, it's kind of like earlier I said, I should have journaled when I quit smoking. I should have quantified and written everything down for every run, but it's just like when I first started, it's like I didn't realize the way I'd even be talking about this, you know, 13 years later. And, you know, God willing, I joke with my friends, it's like I'd love to run or be in a marathon when I'm 85. And people point out, say, look at that old guy. It's like, what a blessing that would be, is that I could be that guy when they say, look at that old guy out here, he's doing it. So we'll see.
I'm sure you'll be out there someday. And I guess it's a lifestyle for you, just like the gym is for me. So if somebody asked me how many times I've lifted at the gym, I mean, I couldn't tell you, because I go 5-6 days a week, you know, probably like you're running. So. Right.
And, you know, it's interesting, and I don't have the research background, but it's like, because I was addicted to cigarettes, for lack of a better word, do I have a personality that motivated me to be addicted to working out? You know, I don't know. Like I said, I don't have the research background into that, but I'm sure somebody has. But, you know, I think it's just because it makes me feel good.
Agreed. So I guess kind of an off-the-wall question. You've probably never thought about this. What comes to mind, or where do you think you might be at now had you not quit smoking, you know, those years ago and started picking up running?
Wow. Never. You know what? I've never thought about that at all. I'm sure it wouldn't be pretty.
Yeah.
You know? And because I think that things go together. It's like if you decide to run, yeah, you can't be 30 pounds overweight. So I'm guessing, you know, the right food choices go along with the exercise. Now, you know, I had red velvet cake last night, so it's not like I deprived myself. But you know what? It's a fabulous question, and I'm gonna like totally punt on that. I have no idea. I've never thought about that, and we'll continue that part of the conversation down the road sometime, and I'll try to think about that. I've got nothing for you on that.
And I expected really that to more so happen for you, because, you know, why would you go back in time and look at that or think or dwell on that? You know, you're a future oriented guy, positive. So yeah, I wouldn't have expected that. I was just curious if I would stump you or not. So I got to stump
me,
on
man.
that one.
I agree.
Just wanted to give a big kudos to you. It's an awesome story, I think. And really, I think an inspiration for a lot of people out there who might want to quit smoking, and not that it'll influence them, you know, once they find their own thing that makes them want to stop smoking, if so, but really it's a positive story and a positive outcome versus what could happen, you know, from what happened to my dad years ago. So I think that's awesome, that you're here, that you're healthy, that you get to run with your kids even, you know, and that you're here with your kids and grandkids today. So that's just awesome, man. And I think that's a huge thing.
Well, thanks for the kind words, man. I think everything always happens for a reason. You know, there's a reason you and I met a few years ago working together, and we connected and different things. So I appreciate the kind words. Props to you for doing these kind of things and for you working out. And dude, I've had a blast. You know, I'm out of coffee now. I'm losing my voice. And it's just something, you know, it means a lot to me that I made an impact on you. So, you know, hopefully 3 people watch this video and you and I helped 3 people quit. So, you know, props to you for doing this. It's been a blast. I wish you the best, and it's been a lot of fun. I don't think I've ever talked about this in depth ever. So, you know, again, I appreciate your kind words, but thank you, and hopefully you and I can make a difference in somebody's life.